Hello, Namaste. The topic for this tutorial video is planet nodes in astrology. Sometimes they're called planet nodes or planetary nodes. And the idea of the planetary nodes is very straightforward. You can think of it as two thoughts. First thought is, the moon's north node and south node are important. Agreed? I think just about every astrologer agrees about this. Almost regardless of what school of astrology or tradition of astrology you follow, the nodes carry through almost every tradition as being important. Okay, so moon's north node, south node are important. Second thought is, well, if the moon's north node and south node are important, what about the nodes of the other planets? They have nodes also. They have paths, and those paths cross the ecliptic plane. So where those planetary paths intersect the path of the sun is called a node. They have nodes. Why don't we use those? Maybe we should use them. So that's the idea of planetary nodes. So how would we go about testing this idea? Well, let me show you. I'm in the Sirius 1.3 software. I have three famous people here. Albert Einstein, whose chart we're looking at, and I also have Barbara Streisand and Elvis Presley. Now, let's see if planetary nodes can tell us anything interesting in Albert Einstein's chart. So we can put the planetary nodes in the Sirius software in the chart wheel, and we can do it interactively, which is very nice. So we can just pop them in the wheel and pop them out with one click. How do we do that? Well, the usual way. We right-click is the fast way to customize a wheel. So I right-click. It's not a super basic selection of a wheel style. I'm customizing, so I click on Customize. And then I have the tabs. The first tab is Planets, which is actually more than planets, has things like co-ascendant and polar ascendant and etc. All these different things, part of fortune. And if I look closely, I might notice a little button, Asteroids, Lots, Nodes. So there's that word nodes. Maybe I would find it there. Here are the asteroids. Here are the lots, also known as Arabic parts. And here's planet nodes. So I check it. Boink. There they are. I've got the nodes in the chart. And if I uncheck it, gone. So that's that interactive thing I just mentioned. And I have choice of geo or helio and osculating or not osculating. Let me show you what osculating does. I'll check the nodes. You see my wheel gets very noisy because for each node I have a north node and a south node. And I'm doing this geocentrically, which means that, and they're not going to be opposite each other. They tend to be very roughly opposite, but here's the Jupiter north node, 28 degrees of Gemini. Jupiter south node, 19 degrees of Capricorn. So not extremely close to being opposition. They're just on opposite sides of the chart wheel, but actually not that close to being opposition. Okay, so what does osculating do? Osculating is another word for true. If I check osculating, I will get the true nodes. It's called osculating because it's based on the changes in the orbits of the planets in relationship rather than being averaged out. And for the planets, it makes very little difference. For the moon's node, it makes a big difference, over 2 degrees sometimes, but for the planets it makes very little difference. I'll check it, and let's just, for example, see what happens to Jupiter. 28 Gemini 12, south node 19 Capricorn 9. I check it. Instead of 12, it changed to 9. And what was this? 9 changes to 7. So it's made a difference of 2 or 3 minutes, and that's typical. Very, very little difference between the mean and the true. I use the true, so I check osculating. Now the helio versus geo does make a big difference, and the helio south node is opposite the north node. So let's see what happens if I go with helio. I've got 28 Gemini and 19 Capricorn for Jupiter, north and south node. And I will select helio. And there's the Jupiter north node is now 9 Cancer. It's pretty close to being opposite what the geo south node is. Well, what happened to the helio south node? We don't show it. We could add an option to show it if you want to. It's just going to make your chart wheel very, very noisy because you're going to have twice as many objects. So if you use the helio nodes, the south node is going to be just opposite, and it's not as overwhelming number of new objects. I have inclined towards the geo nodes. Maybe both are important. But I've tended to see things that work. Now you'll notice with the inner planets, by the way, the nodes are not tending to be opposite. Here's the Mercury North node at 5 Aries, the Mercury South node at 26 Aquarius, and a similar thing happens to Venus. North node is over here, South node is there. The planets outside that are further out tend to be opposite, but even Mars in this case, the North node and South node, here's the North node, South node, not very close to opposition. Anyway, you'll have a North node and South node geocentrically. Well, and with outer planets like Neptune and Pluto, they tend to be closer to be opposition geocentrically, but even they're not that close. Okay, so what do we do with this? Well, we can go around and see if anything makes sense. We might expect Mercury nodes to be important for Einstein. And here's the Mercury North node at 5 Aries, conjunct Saturn and Mercury. So then Mercury's North node is conjunct as Mercury and Saturn. Another thing I could do, I could see this is 5.5 Aries, I could uncheck it, get rid of all that noise of all those nodes, and look around for 5 degrees. I don't see anything else. But the fact that his North node is conjunct as Mercury-Saturn conjunction is intriguing. So this is the kind of playing around you can do to see if something makes sense. So that's the idea. I like to select geo and osculating and look around and see if things make sense. And, you know, I'm not an expert in this, working with nodes, but it does seem peculiar. I mean, things do show up. Some of the people that work with this more are convinced of it. So that's the idea, and I'll show you 2 more examples. Now, if I click Done, then I would save this wheel with this. I'll uncheck it, and now I'll click Done, and I do not have the nodes in my wheel permanently because I've unchecked it. So this interactive feature is really nice because it allows you to play with the ideas without necessarily changing your wheel style. Now let's look at Barbara Streisand. So I've got her chart. Just right-click, Customize, Nodes, and check Planetary Nodes. I'll check Geo is already checked, and Osculating. And I could look around and see if I see anything interesting. I found 2 interesting things in her chart. Number 1, her moon is conjunct Chiron. Chiron's at 8.5 Leo, moon's 10 at 2-degree orb, right between them Neptune North node at almost 9.5. Intriguing. I mean, this is interesting. We would expect, glamour, the vision, the imagination. I don't know if glamour is the right word or not, but you get the idea. This sort of fascination, very charismatic person, with Neptune thrown in there. Seems like it would make sense. Another curious thing, Venus South node is really exactly on her Venus. Again, I'm using geocentric. The osculating won't make much difference. That's curious. So you know, as you look at it, I find these very, very curious things. Now, she also has Mercury North node conjunct Mercury, just like Einstein. Well, she's not an Einstein, so I mean, that's not what she's known for. Actually, she is regarded as being very smart. She did very well in school and so on. But anyway, but her Mercury North node is conjunct Mercury as well. So it's interesting. This is how you can play around with this. Let's do one more example. I'll cancel and cancel and cancel. And let's look at Elvis. Last example, right-click, customize, nodes, check planet nodes. And what do we find here? Well, it's kind of interesting. Uranus North node very closely on his 7th house cusp, given his birth time. Makes sense, Uranus, North node, 7th house, upsetting the apple cart, upsetting other people. Yeah, so these things, they do look curious. Of course, his South node, Uranus, is nearby, and Mars, Uranus, both near the ascendant, opposite that. Maybe it's giving a little fire, pizzazz, and upsetting the apple cart type of energy going on there. Also, his moon is the Venus North Node is conjunct his moon. Again, kind of interesting, the way that's working out. Venus North Node conjunct Moon. And what else did I see? Now this is very interesting. His North Node is conjunct Venus. It's a 2-degree orb. So the Moon's North Node is conjunct Venus, and the Venus North Node is conjunct the Moon. That might sound confusing, but it's the same. It's kind of a double whammy thing. Moon's North Node conjunct Venus, Venus's North Node conjunct Moon. Very interesting. Does this add to his, pretty boy image, his charisma, his ability to, convey all these personal emotions on stage? I don't know. But you do find things that are interesting looking at the nodes. The thing that's nice here, you could pull up your own chart and just play with it. Just, check nodes, uncheck nodes, and see if you see anything curious. See if it gets your attention. See if you want to pursue this. But this interactive way to just select and unselect it makes it a fun way to explore this. Okay, so that's planetary nodes. I'm not, an expert in planetary nodes in the sense I don't use them every day, all the time. There's just so many millions of ideas out there in astrology. But that shows you how you can work with it. It does seem that people who work very closely with nodes find this. As an astrologer in Atlanta, Donna Page, she works with the nodes, and she's found that they work in many other astrologers as well. Okay, so that's planetary nodes, how you can work with them and play with them in the software, and then if you find they're really important, you could just put them in, click on done with them in there and keep them there if you like to. Okay, thank you for listening. God bless. Namaste.